thank you so much for being here today. You honor us.
Thank you. I'm delighted. I haven't been back on campus for about 15 years, I think it is. It's been a while.
It's changed a smidgen.
Just a bit,
yeah. It's probably changed in the last 15 minutes, but
yeah.
definitely has in the last 15 years. But yeah, we're delighted to host you here and to show you the best of TCU.
Well, thank you.
You may have noticed that we normally have water up here, but we have a Slurpee as well.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Justin.
Sorry.
Blue raspberry.
This is pink flavor.
Yeah, my favorite, by the way, is Diet Coke, or there's now a Coke Zero Slurpee, and bug your 7-Eleven friends to put in stock Coke Zero Slurpee because it's never in stock. If I was there, it would be in every store. But
some of you know I have a 9-year-old son, and I take him to school. We were talking today about what I was doing. I had to explain that I was interviewing someone. I was interviewing the former principal of 7-Eleven. And his eyes got wide, and he's going, "Oh, so does he get Slurpees?" It's like, yes, he does. Apparently, you had a machine in your office.
I had a machine in my office, yeah, but this sounds like a good idea, right? Until you drink about 5 or 6 of these a day, and all of a sudden your suit's not fitting much. So if you wonder where Coke Zero Slurpee came from, or Diet Coke Slurpee, or Diet Pepsi Slurpee, it came from me bugging Coke and Pepsi to develop a sugar-free version so that I could drink my 5 Slurpees a day and not worry about it.
Well, thank you for caring about our waistline. And my son's future waistline.
Yours was mine. I was worried. This was totally self-serving.
He's grateful. We're looking forward to hearing about your corporate career and your new book shortly. But if I may, I'd like to start with your background.
Sure.
I think you were the youngest of 6 children, raised in a rural town, a house without plumbing. To help pay for your education, you worked multiple jobs, including flipping burgers at McDonald's. Could you talk to us about your personal journey and how that young McDonald's employee came here today?
Yeah, it was, I like to share with people who are dealing with adversity today that growing up without running water, literally, an outhouse, if you live in Massachusetts, you haven't lived until you have to shovel your way out to the outhouse in the middle of the night. But I could have looked at that experience as, woe is me. And as many people do in that circumstance, even my own siblings became a bit of a victim, let the surroundings, let the experience define who they were and what they could do and what they couldn't do, more importantly. And for some reason, I didn't do that. And I credit it a lot to my teachers and those who took me under their wing and said, "Hey, kid, you can do this. You've got potential. You can do whatever you want to do." And parents who didn't graduate beyond the 6th grade, neither my mom nor my dad got past the 6th grade. Those were very difficult times back then. They were sort of children of the Depression era. And they didn't know what to tell me, but they did recognize, my dad, most importantly, recognized as a factory worker that it wasn't about money. Because I'd say, "Dad, he wanted more from me." And I'd say, "Well, is it about making money? You make enough money. We have government surplus cheese. We do okay. We have a roof over our head. What's the big deal?" And he said, "No, son, it's about freedom." He said, "I don't want you to be tied to a machine. I don't want you to be tied to a job that limits your freedom." And interestingly, he had been in World War II and traveled the world. He was on the Burma Road during World War II as a truck driver. And he used to tell me these stories of the Burmese people and how fascinated he was with the culture, and that he always wanted to go back and travel the world and see the different cultures, and he couldn't because he was tied to his machine. And that was what his advice was. Somehow, somewhere in books, in knowledge, was the secret, because they can take your money, they can take your house. They did. They condemned our house when I was like 12. But they can't ever take what you know. And I took that advice very, very seriously. And I'm still on it today. I'm passionate about continuing to learn, not just in school, but lifelong learning.
It's really interesting. My very next question is about a couple of quotes that you've mentioned from your father. The first one, the absolute key to freedom is to learn as much as you can every day of your life. And the second one is the one that you just said, is they can take your money, they can take your things, they can take your job, but they can't ever take what you know. So how have these influenced you? Obviously deeply.
Yeah, it did. It's not like I grew up from the time I was 5 years old and had these as principles that I pursued. It really was an epiphany at some point in my life. In fact, I'll tell you the story. The origin of this title, Education is Freedom, came from an opportunity to go back and teach at Columbia. And I had gone to graduate school there. I mean, I never even thought I'd go to college, much less go to a school like Columbia. I was very lucky to get in. And I was invited back maybe 10 years after graduation to speak. I was walking across campus, and I'm dressed like this, and I've got a briefcase in my hand. I'm feeling pretty proud of myself. And a beautiful spring day in New York, and the trees are blooming and everything. And it was one of those moments you have, it's like, oh man, I made it. And then I saw this kid walking up to me, and he was an African-American kid, looked like me when I was there, looked like hell. T-shirt, jeans, arm full of books, looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. And I saw him walking toward me, and I kind of smiled and said, yeah, that was me. And then I saw his T-shirt, and his T-shirt had 3 words: education is freedom. And it stopped me in my tracks, literally. I stopped him. He probably thought I was a nut, except I was dressed like this, so he probably thought I was an interviewer, so he was really nice to me. Second year MBA student, he's going to be polite. And I said, I am you. I am you or me. That is my life, is education is freedom. Where'd you get that T-shirt? That is so cool. And I went into the class, and I told them 2 things, really important things, because this was literally one of those moments you have in your life that was an epiphany, because I told those students, when I was here in your chair, I thought it was all about money. I'm in business school. I'm going to go out and make money, and the rest of my life I'm going to chase money. And that T-shirt reminded me that it wasn't about money at all. Money is just a matter of keeping score. It's an enabler. But it wasn't about money. It was about freedom. It reminded me of the words of my father many, many years ago. It's really the freedom that I had at that moment was surpassed anything I had ever dreamed I'd be able to do. And so that freedom was what I told those students. And then the second thing is, I thought when I was out of here, I was done. I've got my MBA. I'm done. I never have to go to school again. Never have to learn again. But I realized that was just a license to learn. That degree is a license to learn. It was like my pilot's license. They just taught me enough to kill myself if I didn't keep learning, which I still am doing today. But that degree and the idea that it was a license to learn was such an important lesson, because I applied that back in my job and said, if I want to be a world-class CEO, it's all about learning. It's a constant process, because change is inevitable. And change makes you have to relearn everything you thought you knew every single day of your life. And so that's the origin of the Education is Freedom story, and my awakening that it's all about freedom and it's all about learning.
That's a great story. Something that I often like to ask guests when they come here is, if you take yourself back to when you were 18, say you were going into college, and if someone were to tell you all the things that you did with your life, professional life, other, how much of that would you have recognized? How much of that would have felt just completely ridiculous?
Absolutely all of it. I was a poli-sci. I met with a group of students last night. We were talking about the narrative today that you ought to go be an engineer, you need to be something, technical today. And I was like, I don't know, I was a liberal arts degree, I was a poli-sci major. And I was a poli-sci major because I had no idea. I mean, think about the way I grew up. I had no frame of reference. Business was the factory my dad worked at. I didn't want anything to do with that. Or it was typing class in school. Business class was typing class, and it was all the women in typing class. I was one of those weirdos that took typing, so that turned out to be a great advantage in the computer world, right? But yeah, I had no frame of reference whatsoever for what I could be or could do. So I went the poli-sci route thinking that I would be a lawyer until a professor intervened and said, "You're a terrible lawyer. Please apply at least for a JD MBA." And Columbia was one of the only schools that offered it at the time. And yeah, so I went down that path, but was clueless about what career I could have, what opportunities would lay before me, and I couldn't have dreamed, to imagine even the life that I would evolve to the point that every day today, I wake up every day as a new adventure. I don't even know what's going to happen next week because I live this blessed life now that I know I can learn how to do anything. So if there's something new I want to do, I just go learn how to do it. And then I add a whole new dimension in my life.
It's really inspiring. And it's good, I think, to reinforce that when people look at you on stage and they see the success that you've had, I think it's natural for many of us to have some taken for grantedness. We just assume, look, he knew where he was going. He was driven, he was motivated, he had an end goal in mind. And some of those in this room are probably thinking like that, and it will probably work out well. But I think for many senior leaders, many really successful senior leaders, they didn't see that path. It was one step at a time. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I did want to ask one other thing about your background. We're envious about many things with you, but the breadth of your experience I thought was very cool. There was a sculptor, painter, composer, you fly a plane. When you think about maybe your business and business interests, and then what I would call the rest of these, your non-business, do you do these because they're filling a different bucket internally, or do you think that this is just a manifestation, all of this is a manifestation of who you are?
Well, I think a lot of it just evolved. I'll share with you the pilot thing. Many people learn to fly. I wanted to be an astronaut as a little kid.
Our previous guest was an astronaut.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We don't get to say that very often, so I like putting that in.
No, it's cool. In fact, I just saw a great meme, something like pilots are cool, but compared to astronauts, we're like bus drivers. And so, yeah, I grew up in the Apollo era with Buzz Aldrin and guys like that who turned out, I told you my life's an adventure. He's a dear friend of mine now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had dinner with him, a few months ago in LA, and he's been in my cockpit. He's been my co-pilot.
Is that really stressful?
Yeah, it is, actually. It's like, damn, I've got Buzz. The worst part is, don't crash. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go down in history as the guy that killed Buzz Aldrin. That'd be awful. Can you imagine? But yeah, I've had Buzz. Charlie Duke, Apollo 16, ended up, I worked on a project trying to help them commemorate the 50th anniversary. And so I got to know a lot of them over the last 20 years. And Charlie Duke called me up one day. He said, "Jim, you want to promote your book in zero gravity?" I was like, yes. So I say yes a lot. And literally, I picked him up in Greenville, South Carolina, threw him in the right seat of my jet, fly down to Cape Canaveral, and because I'm with General Charlie Duke, I had in advance arranged, can I land on the shuttle strip? So they let me land on the shuttle strip, 15,000-foot runway. Nobody ever gets to land there unless you're an astronaut. And fulfilled one of those dream missions. We land and they bring out the water cannons because I'm with General Duke, and they park us right next to the shuttle replica for a photo op. I mean, just stuff like that really is such a blessing to be able to do. But anyway, so I went down this whole rabbit hole. But the reason I learned to fly is that I wanted to be an astronaut as a kid. So I started taking flying lessons instead. I didn't pursue the astronaut thing. My eyes weren't great enough. I had glasses, and they figured they'd never let me fly in the military. So I ended up just getting a pilot's license and stayed with it over the years and worked my way up from single engines to twins to turboprops, and then had the privilege of flying jets. So now I'm able to literally single pilot, jump in a jet and fly anywhere in the world without even having a co-pilot with me at 41,000 feet. But it requires constant training. So once a year, I have to train with the professionals. They put me in a simulator for 3 days and try to kill me. Seriously, engine failures, I mean, all kinds of horrible stuff. But they're reprogramming my brain to respond, not react, out of fear. It's an important consideration. But that's why I get to do all these things. Flying, painting was simple. I loved Impressionists, could never afford one. Said, how hard can that be? Right? Bought a canvas, some paint, you know, and then ended up at the Florence Academy of Art between Blockbuster and 7-Eleven for a little mental health break, and actually became technically a real artist.
That's amazing. I like that line. How hard can that be? I need to use that more. I'd like to move now to your corporate career. So you served as CEO for almost a decade in total at two very different large companies, 7-Eleven and Blockbuster. So Blockbuster came more recently, but I'd like to start with that because I think many of us in this room are fascinated to know what that was like. For the whippersnappers in the room, Blockbuster used to be used to be a firm, used to be a store. You would go in and you would want something to do in the evening, so you would take things off the shelves, you would rent it, you would go home, you would watch it, you would not take it back, you would pay late fees until eventually the pain got too great, and then you would go back and you would take it back. That doesn't really exist anymore. This must have been fascinating to live through this when, in advance of this event, I've talked to a lot of people about you and about your experiences, and the first question that always comes up is some version of, you know, what do you do when you're leading a billion-dollar company and the world says they don't want what you do anymore? How did you deal with that?
Well, first of all, how many of you think Netflix crushed Blockbuster? Oh, come on. Be honest. Yeah. You're wrong. And here's the difference. This view of the world is on here on purpose, inspired by my astronaut friends who, when they leave the Earth, have perspective of this beautiful planet, no borders, no wars, no races, just humanity. And then they land, and they get a fire hose of perceptions. When they turn on social media, the news, fear-based perceptions, or humans jumping to conclusions based on what they see and not using their critical thinking skills that we're all learning in places like TCU, but instead just say, face value, oh, Netflix killed Blockbuster because they didn't keep up with technology. The problem with perception, apart from dividing us and creating all the other problems in society today, which is largely based on perceptions and fear, the problem with perception is you miss so much that you can learn in perspective. And Blockbuster represents one of the best case studies ever in business. Business school, we all do case studies. It's one of the best case studies. Harvard wrote a case study, Netflix versus Blockbuster. They chalked it up to Blockbuster not keeping up with technology. It's wrong. I went to Harvard, to the guy who wrote the case. I said, you realize that's wrong. You want the real story? I told him the real story, and he's like, oh, wow, didn't know that. And I said, well, Liz, do you want to redo the case? And he was like, nah, that's hard. You know how hard it is to redo a case? Oh, no, I don't know, just forget it. All right, so can I get?
Yeah.
All right, the real story.
We got ages.
2000, year 2000, rumor is Netflix went to Blockbuster and said, we want to sell ourselves for $50 million. You guys hear that rumor? It wasn't me. I didn't get there till 2007, so I'm not the idiot that turned it down. But I also defend my predecessors and why they turned it down, because in the year 2000, Blockbuster was partnered with Enron because Enron had bought up more spectrum than anyone else in the world. So Enron at the time, this is before their meltdown, is sitting on this amazing power to do streaming video. And Blockbuster had all the content. It was a marriage made in heaven until Enron melted down. behind technology, didn't keep up with technology, never saw streaming coming. False, absolutely false. They were way ahead of the curve. Probably too far ahead of the curve at the time. Now, Netflix at the time was doing DVDs by mail. Their stock was worth 75 cents a share, and it wasn't anywhere near worth $50 million. So if anyone thinks that Blockbuster was stupid, then look in a mirror and say, should I have bought the stock for 79 cents? Because everybody had the opportunity to buy Netflix. But no one would have at that point. Hindsight's really easy. Again, perception versus perspective. Don't be trapped in perceptions. Dial forward. 2007, I get to the company. Now they're in fierce battle with Netflix. Netflix market cap now is $1.3 billion. Ours is about $300 million. We were struggling. They had broken a couple of bank covenants. I don't know if Frost had any lending for Blockbuster, but sorry. Because they had violated covenant. I didn't even know this. I get there the first day on the job. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, we just violated it. They're going to put us out of business. Oh, good, thank you. Would have been nice to tell me that before. So but I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried because there was so many things we could do. My first official act, within 6 months of arriving, I bought a company called MovieLink, streaming video company. Nobody remembers any of this because nobody was streaming yet. And MovieLink was a fledgling company started by the 5 of the 6 major studios to prevent the fragmentation that's actually happened in the market today. And so I was able to buy not only the infrastructure to be able to do streaming, but 3,000 titles already digitized, which was huge. I then had a chance with Viacom to lock up all of the old content exclusively. Now imagine what that would have meant. Blockbuster not only has a streaming capability, has 3,000 of the newest releases, which was 80% of our business. Remember the new release wall? But we could lock up exclusively all the old movies, everything but HBO and Disney, basically. That meant Netflix would have nothing to stream had we done that. But it was $100 million a year to do that deal. Third piece of the puzzle that no one knows. I had a call from Google. Google said, we just bought YouTube. We're getting crushed by the studios because they're streaming movie stuff out on YouTube. And the studios are beating us up. How about if we partner and we'll go Blockbuster on demand on one side, YouTube on the other. Everything free, YouTube, everything paid, Blockbuster. Now can you imagine today, total aggregation, all the movies, all the TV shows, everything you want to see, one-stop shop. Free, you go to YouTube, pay, you go to Blockbuster. That was the deal of the century. So what happened? 2008, third quarter. Lehman Brothers, sound familiar? Financial crisis, GM and Ford going to DC begging for a bailout. Blockbuster had $1 billion of debt, due much of it in 2009. I had been able to kick the can with my bank partners to get an extension after our covenant violations. When I joined in 2007, I got an extension. They pushed it out till 2009 to let me turn around the company. We did, doubled EBITDA. We're in great shape. But the bank collapse basically brought out the wolves, the debt folks who try to buy the cheap debt, the distressed debt, and then try to push the company into bankruptcy. Bottom line is, we were forced, not even by the debt, but by studios who got scared. They didn't want to be the last man standing. Pulled our credit terms from 90 days to cash, and that sucked $300 million in cash flow within about 2 weeks out of the company and forced our hand into having to restructure the company. Now, through all of that, I stayed the course, could have left. Friends and family, Jim, get out of there. You didn't start this mess. I stayed, had to suffer the embarrassment of half-page picture in the New York Post with a Pinocchio nose. You haven't lived until your friends call you up and go, nice picture, Keys. But it's not personal. At the end of the day, it's not personal. I stayed the course, got the company restructured, sold it to Dish Network, who ultimately had acquired that Enron spectrum. with the vision of they were going to go straight to mobility using that spectrum. Now, what happened? The government didn't release the spectrum. Dish got tired of waiting. They decided to close all the stores, and they still sit on the Blockbuster brand. Will they come back one day as the aggregator? Perhaps, but maybe that window's closed, I don't know. But that's the real Blockbuster story. And the learnings inside, cash management, vendor communications. Could I have kept the studios from crushing the credit terms? Probably. I didn't see it coming. I didn't think they were dumb enough to do that, actually, because they shot themselves in the foot. Employee communications, activist shareholder challenges, guys who buy the debt and try to spread rumors and blah, 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 because their objectives are entirely different from your shareholder value. So, I mean, all these are rich, rich business learnings within the Blockbuster case. So I hope TCU will do a new case study. You wonder why I accepted this invitation. That's the real story.
Thank you so much for the detail there. It's fascinating to think about the counterfactual, how the world could have been different. I like this idea of YouTube on one side and Blockbuster on the other. All of us are paying, 27 different subscriptions at the moment.
Yeah.
Would be nice if that were one.
Exactly.
Maybe we could talk about some insights from this. Earlier today, you were saying that you might have some interest in teaching at some point. As I mentioned before, I know some people, so we could make that happen. If you abstract out from the specific Blockbuster situation, I think there's a lot of firms that are concerned about whether they're facing their Blockbuster moment now. We talk about AI as driving some of this, but these broader, strong technological tsunamis that are overcoming firms and industries. What sort of advice would you have for those, maybe your earlier self, but those who are leading firms that are facing that sort of very powerful technological force?
Yeah, you actually referenced it in the beginning that change equals opportunity. I think the reality is too many companies freeze in the face of change. Inertia creeps in. We saw it at Blockbuster. We saw it at 7-Eleven. There's just this resistance to change inside, and it's rooted in fear. I don't want to risk my job. I don't want to risk the company. I don't want to take a chance. What got me here, worked. I'm going to stick with that, but it's not going to get me to where I need to be. So that idea of change really has been ingrained throughout my career. 7-Eleven went through a bankruptcy in 1991, and that change proved to be very beneficial for me. Could I have ascended to the CEO role within a 10 or 15 year period of joining a company that was healthy and successful? Probably not. Could I have been a public company CFO in a successful company? Definitely not. I had one accounting course in business school. And when they named me CFO, I went home and said, where's my accounting books? I need to remember, is it debit on the right or credit on the left? I can't remember. I'm in deep trouble here. But as I wrote the book, first 3 words, change equals opportunity. And I stepped back from that and I went, the acronym CEO. Duh. It is the role of the CEO because all business begins and ends with something changing. If you think about it, just break it down in the simplest terms. Something changes, someone responds to it, and they're compensated for it. And then what happens? Well, I don't want to change anymore, and someone else takes advantage of the next change and puts them out of business. Sears versus Walmart versus Amazon, right? And it happens. I'm not going to say Netflix versus Blockbuster. I refuse to say that. But change does equal opportunity if you can do 3 things. So so this is the message, basically, that I don't just say, hey, you got to keep up with change. That's too easy. The key to keeping up with change is having 2 more pieces of the puzzle. One is embracing change, not running away from it. So I think AI is the best thing that humanity could ever have. Yeah, there's some risk, but I think we should embrace it because it's going to elevate human learning at a rate we've never seen before, potentially, if we embrace it. But to embrace change, you've got to have confidence, and that's where it gets tough. because people say, yeah, I'm confident. No, not so much. It's neuroscience, basically. It is what we're pre-programmed to be right out of the box. Our computer, when we're born, is pre-programmed to defend ourselves. The amygdala sometimes takes over instead of the prefrontal cortex, that fight or flight reaction that we were born with to save us, even though we don't have natural predators. So that fight or flight shows up in the boardroom and in the organization. You see it all the time. People, just behavior that's out of control, and it's driven by fear. They're afraid something's going to happen to them or their job. Or what the flight thing to me is worse. That's that passive aggressive behavior. Yes, boss. I agree. Genius. Good idea. Until they leave the meeting, they say, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I'll never do that, right? That's what kills a company. It's that fear that creeps in. So confidence, which is a learned behavior. I don't believe you're born with confidence. I believe you can learn how to be confident through preparation and a lot of other steps. And then the third, I call it clarity, because that process of inbound understanding, listening, really listening to each other, using our critical thinking, and then outbound communications, truly being able to communicate effectively. You could have the best strategy in the world, and if you can't explain that to a 6-year-old, you probably can't execute it. Your team won't be able to execute it. So clarity. Those three things, change, confidence, and clarity, I think in a rapidly changing world driven by AI, if we can't do those three things, we're going to get stuck. If we can, those who can embrace those three very fundamental, I call them meta skills, soft skills, those three things will help propel you into the next level of whatever it is you're doing. And this is both personal and professional.
I really like that. It's a great heuristic for us: change, confidence, and clarity. 3 C's.
Three C's.
That's good. Okay. I don't think we'll have much time to talk about 7-Eleven, because I really would like to get on to some of the work that you've been doing more recently.
Sure.
So maybe we could start with your non-profit work. So you founded Education is Freedom Foundation. Could you just give us an overview of why you started that, what the motivation was, what your goals are, how it's been going?
Sure. I actually started the foundation when I was at 7-Eleven, and I was being pushed by the board to cut our philanthropic budget. I think I was CFO at the time, maybe, and they were saying, you're giving too much money. And, it happens. So we were going through financial issues and stuff like that. And so I said, well, what if I generate a return on investment? Because we were doing a lot of really good things, writing a lot of $5,000 and $10,000 checks, but it wasn't really measurable. And I said, well, the two things we really need is, we need education programs, and we need programs to help our minority students, because they reflect our customer base and our employee base. So let's try to find something that would help those two. So we said, the biggest problem we've got is hiring good quality educated workers. If you wonder why there are so many first-generation Americans in 7-Eleven, I discovered by asking them, why are you here? Many would come with a degree from another country and $500 in their pocket and become a franchisee, and then work their butt off and then get another store and another store, bring their family over, educate them, get more stores. And I realized they're experiencing the American dream. This is the American dream. Why aren't our own kids in Oak Cliff experiencing the American dream? Or in other parts of Fort Worth? Why isn't everybody seeing this path through education to opportunity? So we put a foundation in the public schools in Dallas as a test to just show them the path. I partnered with August Bush from AB and CEO of Frito-Lay, and we said, we've all got the same problem. This is a supply and demand issue. Let's go grow our own future employees. So that was the original motivation for the Education is Freedom Foundation. I named it that because I recalled that the agencies were in helping us brand this thing. They said, well, we got these fancy brand names. And they said, how did you come up with this idea anyway? And I said, well, I don't know. Let me tell you the story about this walk across campus at Columbia. And I told them, the story of education is freedom, and they said, that's the name of the foundation.
Yeah. You're involved in several other nonprofits as well.
Mm-hmm.
How, are you able to spend time on those? It sounds like you're pretty occupied with this.
Yeah, I've just been blessed with, as you know, my range of interest is pretty broad. So I was chairman of the Dallas Symphony. Had the privilege of doing that for a while. Got a call from the White House one day after 9/11. Hey, come talk to us about jobs. Okay. And they called me 2 weeks later, said, we want you to be CEO of the American Red Cross. I was like, 1,000 different chapters, very decentralized. I don't know. So I declined. I probably should have done it. I took Blockbuster instead. And, I wasn't the right guy for the Red Cross role. We hired a woman named Gail McGovern. I decided to sit on the board. I took a board seat instead, and we did a dramatic turnaround of the American Red Cross, which I was very proud of, by using technology to be able to bring it to this century. And so American Red Cross, I sit on the Methodist Hospital Board, UT Southwestern Medical School Board, things like that, just to try to do a little giving back and to learn. Every one of these organizations I get more from than I give, because I'm learning a lot from my peers on the board and from the organizations themselves. And I knew nothing about healthcare until I joined a couple of healthcare boards.
Let's talk about your new book. I feel like a talk show host. Buy one of these.
You could do that with the purple sneakers.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Our chancellor, he wears these quite a lot, and in his honor, I wear these for these events.
I grew up with Cons.
Really?
Converse, yeah.
Yeah, they're
all-stars.
Yeah, they're comfortable. I feel like I should be better at basketball to carry these off. So yeah, let's talk about your book. It's 2025, so it's mandatory that we bring AI into the conversation. Mm-hmm. So I asked ChatGPT yesterday for a 2-line summary of your book, and it said, in Education is Freedom, the Future is in Your Hands, author James W. Keyes argues that education isn't just a privilege, it's the key to unlocking personal freedom and empowering a functioning democracy.
Good job.
Did it get it right?
Yeah.
All right. 10 out of 10 to Claude. Good job.
I've only said it about 800,000 times in the last year.
What made you want to write this? I'm sure this took a lot of time and energy, and you're a busy man. Why did you decide to write this?
Well, I'm not an author.
You are now.
I am now. Yeah. It's just another one of those things. When I created the foundation, we tested it in Dallas, and I had the megaphone of 7-Eleven to make it a worldwide foundation. When we sold 7-Eleven in 2005 to the Japanese licensee, their desire to continue with philanthropic activities just changed. They just had a different focus, and they decided not to continue to drive the foundation. It happens. So it never really went beyond Dallas. Now we're expanding it today into the Metroplex, and then hopefully all of Texas. An organization called Commit has really helped us to do that. But one of my founders in the organization originally was a guy named Stedman Graham, better known as Oprah's boyfriend. Don't tell him I said that. Oh, no, this is video, isn't it?
We'll block that out.
Yeah, block that piece.
It's like a 7-second delay. We do the same.
Anyway, he introduced me to Oprah many years, 25 years ago, and she was really strongly endorsing this, getting this message out. Said it's a brand that needs to be, an idea that needs to be shared with the world. And so Stedman's been on me for 20 years to write the book. And finally, I don't know how to write a book, and then he made it easy for me. He's written 12 books, so he gave me the template. It's like anything else. Once you learn how to do it, how to write a book proposal and give it to a book agent and get it to a publishing company, it's like being an artist. It's not really very mysterious once you figure out the process and learn the process and then learn how to do it. So I did, and that was the objective was to take this message worldwide, because I truly think, I'm going to get really woo-woo here, but I truly think the answer ultimately to the future of humanity and world peace is for us to overcome our also human instinct of fear, which is killing us. It's causing all this division, it's causing wars, causing fighting. And here's the way I look at it. If you're a kid and you're scared of the dark, you turn on the light. That's knowledge. Once you know there's nothing to be afraid of in the room, you go back to sleep, you're not afraid. And if you apply that same principle to all of the nagging fears that humanity has, the more you learn, the less you have to be afraid of. And if we can get people to stop being so afraid by using their critical thinking, not being influenced by perception and triggering anger and hatred, instead using their very human mind, their mental capabilities to get beyond this fear reaction, the world can be such a better place. And that's really the essence of the message of the book.
What a wonderful message there. I think that's relevant to all of us, not just for business, but in life. It reminds me of a section, my favorite section of it is I think it's chapter 12. You talk about cultural literacy. I really liked that. You give a lot of great anecdotes. You talk about things like how you learn to communicate differently in different environments. You tie that to leadership, you tie that to humility. Could you tell us a little bit about this idea of cultural literacy? I think that'd be of relevance to many of us in the room.
Yeah, I was literally, I'm trying to write this book about, I've been calling them meta skills. I didn't call them meta skills in the book. I've been told soft skills doesn't work. You ought to call them meta skills. It's more relevant today. But I get to this section of how do I describe the importance of understanding each other culturally. And I struggled with that because I wanted to write diversity, a chapter on diversity. I thought, oh man, if I do that, that's polarizing. I'll have, 30% of the country that won't buy my book because I said something about diversity. But I got to be able to communicate this. So I was looking for C's to simplify, that clarity thing, right? Simplification. And I thought, I know, cultural literacy. So I coined this term, cultural literacy. And I told the story about when I was an undergraduate student growing up in Massachusetts. We only had 2 races. You're either, in my central Mass little village, we had Irish and Italian. The Irish hated the Italians and the Italians hated the Irish. I think I was a little of both, so I was kind of in the middle.
A lot of self-hatred there.
Yeah. Well, my birthday was on St. Patrick's Day, though.
Oh, very good. That was when I met my wife, actually.
See?
Yeah, in an Irish bar. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. The old-fashioned way.
I was in Dublin once, and I told them I was Irish. They went, "You're not Irish." Anyway, so I end up at the University of London, do a junior year abroad thing, and I'm thinking they're going to love me. I'm an American. I'm a baseball player. I do all this cool stuff. And I got over there and they hated me. They're like, "You're a Yank, you're obnoxious, and you're blah, blah, blah." And that like nobody liked me. And the friends who took me under their wing were my Pakistani and Indian friends. Ironically, they're the minority in the UK where I was going to school. And they took me under their wing and they taught me to play cricket. And they said, "Dude, you're not in canvas anymore. Baseball is what girls play here. You have to play cricket." I'm like, okay, the bat's this big, how hard can this be, right? The ball bounces once before it comes to you. What a great game. I get 6 runs with a foul ball. This is a great game. So, how confidence really does work, right? And so I end up making the cricket team. I become very popular. My second half of the year in the UK, I was like one of the most popular kids on campus. Not because I just learned cricket, but because I assimilated. I learned their culture, and I learned to be one of them and respect their culture. And I came back, little did I know, 10, 15 years later, I'd be running a company called 7-Eleven where the biggest population of franchisees was either from Pakistan or India. I'd been to their weddings, the 4-day weddings. I understood their culture. And then when I went to Japan, I understood if I'm going to do business with Japanese, I better learn their language because I'm here a lot. And a lot of Americans don't trust their Japanese coworkers because of the cultural differences in the language. The word yes doesn't really exist as we know it in the Japanese language. So when you're doing business with somebody and they say, hi, and it's interpreted as yes, and our guys walk out and say, yeah, we got that contract. And the next day they go in the room and they say, we didn't say yes. We said we acknowledged the contract. We didn't agree to it. And then now they think they're lying to them. But once you learn the language and learn the culture, you overcome that barrier to doing business, and it becomes easier to get along. So I see myself as a global citizen now. I'll be in Ghana next week. Next month. I just came back from Australia. I'm comfortable in any country in the world knowing that I have to learn that culture, that I'm a guest there. And it's a big difference. So I call that cultural literacy. And one last thing. In a world of technology, all this stuff about nationalism and, we're going to pull in the borders and all this kind of stuff, that's short term. You're not going to put the technology genie back in the bottle. Globalism comes from technology making it possible to communicate instantly anywhere in the world with anybody, even in a different language. The next version of earbuds will be simultaneous translation. What's that going to do for our ability to do business with anybody from anywhere in the world? My point being, the more we learn cultural literacy today, the more opportunity we will see globally, because this is a shrinking world, and there's a lot of opportunity out there if we can work better with each other and understand each other better.
It's a great example for the Douglas Adams fans. I love that the Babel fish actually almost exists now. So many of you won't know about that, but you can look that up. We have time for just a couple of questions from the audience. I love this first one. I've watched your TikTok videos. Good for you for doing TikTok videos. What's your favorite item from 7-Eleven?
Oh, my favorite item from 7-Eleven? It depends on which country. 7-Eleven Japan has a product called onigiri. It's a rice ball. And it's rice with perfectly wrapped with the nori, the seaweed on the outside, so it stays crisp. And inside of this is like delightful. It's like restaurant quality sushi on the inside. And my dream is to Americanize that, find a way to make it a handheld protein and starch, which is just like the hamburger, the taco, the pizza. Every country has one. No one has Americanized this wonderful Japanese product yet.
That sounds great. Looking 10 years into the future, what do you think will define the next major shift in consumer behavior, and how should businesses or non-profits prepare to stay relevant? Just a small question.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, I think AI will accelerate change. It's hard to imagine because change is happening so quickly now, but it will accelerate change. And I think it's going to elevate human behavior and human awareness. So I'm excited about the opportunities that will create. I can't yet name those opportunities because, think about it. Let's go back 20 years. The internet's invented, right? Not much commerce being done. We're all a little skeptical, will I ever use this for anything? And I tell you, in 20 years, you're going to get in a stranger's car. You're going to call up a stranger on your phone, and you're going to get in their vehicle, and they're going to drive you across town at 2 a.m., and you're going to sleep in another stranger's home called Airbnb, driven by Uber. You would have said, you're crazy. I will never do that. And now look at the industries that have completely emerged from nothing that we never would have even believed could exist. That's what AI will do. It will create entirely new opportunities that we can't sit here today and say, because if I did, you'd say, that's crazy. But I think they will emerge. And that's why these principles, change, confidence, clarity, being able to stay on top of this stuff and embrace AI as a tool, as an opportunity, rather than fear it, I think is just a huge, huge opportunity, especially in business.
That's a great segue into this last question, which I think will be our last for today. What's your biggest piece of advice for the students in the room? What do you want people to take away from today?
The idea that that knowledge is so empowering. And I'll leave one last piece, that this is Texas Christian University, right?
It is. This is you have to do this before you leave.
There you go. How's
That's
that? Two-fisted?
Oh yeah, always. Yeah.
As I've been whirling around the world talking about knowledge being the enlightenment, the power, I, from time to time, get these questions, well, what about things you don't know? What about things you can't know? And I like to talk about Yoda. Now, I can quote a couple of ancient philosophers. I can quote a pope. Or I can quote Yoda, because Yoda said it best. He said, when he was training Luke to be a Jedi, Luke, you must have knowledge. Okay, you must learn to be a Jedi. I got that. What about the things I don't know? Luke, you must have the Force. May the Force be with you. Now, I don't know if George Lucas meant that, but I think it's a beautiful metaphor for faith. Because I don't think it has to be attributed to any one religion. It's a broader definition of faith. May the Force be with you. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in your ability to do anything and to overcome fear with your combination of knowledge and faith. And it's a beautiful, very, very powerful combination if you think about it. Whatever your religion is, you can apply. And as I go around the world, I've had the privilege of speaking in Kuwait, and Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia, and Australia, and China, and the message is the same, that in the Bible, 365 times, do not be afraid. It's the most often repeated phrase in the Bible. Do not be afraid. Check me out on that. The Quran, 170 times. The Torah, 120 times. Do not be afraid. That combination of knowledge and your belief in the universe, if nothing else, that the universe will conspire to make something happen if you believe in it strongly enough, the words of Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist. That combination of knowledge that you can learn your way out of any problem, and what you can't know, you can rely on your faith to carry you through. That combination is an incredibly powerful force to help you eliminate fear and to accomplish virtually anything you wish to accomplish. And, by the way, I think if humanity would adopt that, I think it would help take us a long way toward truly being a better place to be.
It's a beautiful way to finish. You said you don't know what a day is going to hold for you. When I woke up today, I didn't think that we'd have a conversation covering Yoda, Slurpees, cricket, the future of humanity. But it's
cover some ground.
It's been
Astronauts.
it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. You're a remarkable man. You're a remarkable leader, and we're honoured that you joined us today. Please join with me in thanking Mr.
Grateful
Pease.
for the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.